So you think you love the CLE?
The thing about being a Cleveland fan, I think we're all a little self-deprecating.
Well, these people love the CLE, and what they love about it is the 2016 Cavaliers.
It was an eclectic group of superior athletes.
Cleveland loved the King's return.
When LeBron came back, it was like all of a sudden my friends knew that they could go get a car loan.
Who can forget the shirts and Shirtless JR?
Your job is to work out and you have no muscle tone.
The celebration of a championship.
I think I jumped on a trunk bed. I saw people that shouldn't have been hugging.
In your face, that just happened. The land is here.
Admit it. You love, they love, I love the CLE. I love the CLE, and the CLE loved the King's return.
You know what? I never read that letter, but I knew he was going to end up coming back.
When that letter came out, I remember sitting on my couch, and I went into the bathroom, I don't even know why, and I broke down and I cried. I'm not afraid to admit it. I cried like a baby.
I shed tears, man. I shed legit tears.
And it was just one of those things where it felt right. It felt like a movie, you know what I mean? I get emotional in movies sometimes.
I'm joking up. It was beautiful. It was poetry.
I was in Phoenix at the time that, the Cavs, LeBron had come back and the letter was put out in the Plain Dealer and all that. So unfortunately I didn't get to feel it in my hands like a Cleveland sports fan would want to, the tangibleness.
I think the fact that he left Andrew Wiggins out of the letter spoke volumes. I think he put, the major things into it because he did not include some key players on that team, and then they did not join him on his journey.
We had these giant cutouts of athletes, and I don't know where we got them from, but one of them was this giant head of LeBron James, and somebody had left it on my desk. To this day, I don't know who it was, and they wrote on the back, "Hey Mayor, my bad, Bron."
I know that one of his PR people wrote that letter. There's no way LeBron James just sat down and wrote that love letter to Cleveland of I know my mistakes. I was just a kid. I'm coming back. This is home.
I'm a LeBron hater, but I only hate him when he's not here. You know what I mean?
The guy worked hard, put himself in a position where he could play anywhere he wanted. So he went to Miami to play with some friends. And then he left Miami to come to Cleveland, and people were still mad. Had to be tricky, though, to try and glue together some of those burned jerseys.
When LeBron came back, it was like all of a sudden my friends knew that they could go get a car loan because they were working in the bar business. They're servers.
So he writes that letter. I'm super excited because I also know, hey, this beat's relevant again. I'm still covering the Cavaliers because the last couple years were miserable. So let's get back to relevance here, baby. Yeah. Finally, people are going to follow me on Twitter again. This is going to be awesome.
I had taken him out of my album when he left. So it was like the breakup that I knew I would never accept him back from. And when we got that news, it was 2015, because I was in grad school. I was completely 180. I was celebrating and just freaking out and wholeheartedly accepted that PR move of a letter.
They had the LeBron James rally, and that was packed. There was turn away crowds.
Yeah, I have a cousin that lives in his neighborhood. And so I know that there was so much traffic and chaos created by him coming back that he had cupcakes and cookies delivered and an apology note to all the people in the neighborhood.
But he came back and he fought like a damn beast. He was a warrior poet for that 2015 when he 36, 13 and 9 he averaged in the finals.
I love the CLE, and the CLE loved the trade for Kevin Love.
Anything to get Anthony Bennett out of Cleveland at that point, to be honest with you.
I was one of those people right out of the gate was you got to trade Wiggins, right? I was a fan of him in college. I thought he was very good. But you got to get rid of the kid, right? Because it feels like there's this other super team that you have to beat, right? And they built that in Miami. They knock off Boston. And you have to build your own super team.
I don't want to lie to anybody watching this and sound like a huge hypocrite, I did not want the Cavs to trade for Kevin Love.
Cleveland is in love with the what ifs, right? We love draft picks. We love the player to be named later.
When he first got traded here and he had like a billboard downtown.
I loved Kevin Love in Minnesota.
When Kevin Love got here, I was just like, nah.
Give me the proven commodity. Kevin Love's the proven commodity. He's going to help take us to the promised land. I mean, look at the guy. Big body, big boy. He like gets in the paint, he bangs, he can shoot threes.
I remember back 2014, the thought of the major blockbuster trade being made with a Cleveland team was like, it was unheard of. So I remember the first conversations about, yeah, we'll be getting Kevin Love too. Like, yeah, right.
I thought it was a great pickup by the Cavs, honestly. And I think that we saw that he was a really important role player, especially with everything that happened, with their drive to multiple finals and then finally winning the championship.
I didn't know we were going to get like supermodel Kevin Love that was going to show up like 40 pounds lighter, all hot with a nice jawline. I wanted like chubby. I want like poke the stomach Kevin Love. That's what I wanted when he first came to town.
When he got to Cleveland, he thinned out, got all handsome. She was like, not only am I good at basketball, but I'm a ladies' man now. I was like, hell yeah, we got handsome Kevin Love.
But, getting the star power, and then he got super handsome and was a male model. And it's like, that's good for the image in general.
I mean, the excitement obviously was there. It's Kyrie, it's Kevin Love, it's LeBron. I remember saying we are going to have the greatest roster ever assembled in NBA history. And just over the last 8 years since then, it's probably like the number 25th roster.
Cleveland fans, we try not to get too high. Even though it inevitably happens, we're like, oh, this is totally the pieces that we need. This is going to happen. It's weird. I really felt a good feeling that season. I wasn't being overt about it, but I felt a really good feeling when some of these pieces, Kevin Love, started to come into the picture. I'm like, okay, you know what? Not to be crazy here, this looks good for us.
I am a hypocrite because after they traded for him, I immediately ordered a Kevin Love jersey from the team shop.
Bless him. And we're all very lucky to have that gorgeous hunk of a man. Thank you, Kevin Love. I don't care that you get hurt every single season. I don't care. Just stay with us and wear your hot clothes.
Yeah.
I forgot that we had David Blatt for 2 months? I don't know how long. Was it a whole year?
He's a nice guy, but he was so ill-equipped for the job.
David Blatt, lover of dad jeans. I don't know if you know. Go back and watch some of his practice interviews. He loved dad jeans.
David Blatt, he just looked confused all the time.
I don't know why they hired that creepy looking dude in the first place. It's just like, you're coached Israeli basketball? Like, who cares?
Him sitting on the bench over there, I don't know if his one eye was crossed or he just looked confused all the time.
He was a good guy, I guess.
David Blatt could drive up a hell of an inbounds play. That's one thing you give him, right? Hell of an inbounds play.
And he couldn't control LeBron. Couldn't control him. No coach ever really has.
We got to feel bad for this guy. He gets hired. He thinks he's going to instill this European-style offense. He looks at Kyrie Irving, some of these young pieces, Dion Waiters. Oh, we're going to have young ball handlers. We're going to really run the court, run and gun offense. It's not going to be focused on any one thing. We're going to have discipline. I'm a legend in Europe, absolute legend. This is the Popovich of where he came from. He tried to call a timeout, and someone on the bench had to physically grab him. The coach of the greatest roster at the moment to ever be assembled had to be ripped off the sideline and pulled back to the bench so he didn't call a timeout and lose the game for his team. And it was like, oh yeah, no, this poor guy's drowning. You're gonna have to pull the plug on him here soon.
And then they fired him. I mean, that's LeBron just flexing again. He just I don't like him. Get rid of him. And then they're like, yeah, whatever you want, bud.
Respectfully, I need you to get all of your things and exit, please, because we got a championship to win. You know what I mean?
Ty Lue came in, and then they hated him too. So LeBron doesn't want to coach, period.
Ty Lue had credentials, but basically everyone knew who was running that team.
She's the hot, crazy chick. I mean, the sex is phenomenal, right? She's going to take you to the moon. She's going to drive you insane every single day. Do you have what it takes to stay there? Can you last throughout the 12 hours of daylight so you can get to the bedroom? I mean, that's what he does. How many times has he been to the bedroom? You get to the bedroom, he's going to finish the job for you, right?
You're not going to coach LeBron James. You're just, you need to be a parrot that just echoes what LeBron wants you to say
But the one thing Ty Lue did have was like that rapport with the players and like knew how to get the most out of them, could massage an ego. And that's really what that team at that time needed was, they just needed that ego massaging. They had the talent. It was there. It was ready to go. They just needed a guy to go, hey, Dip, don't mess this up. It's right there in front of you. And I mean, that's what they got in Ty.
All right, so if you want to know what kind of baller, what kind of like testicular fortitude that Ty Lue had, when the Cavs were down 3-1 in the finals, he put money into the roof of the locker room at the Oracle Center in Oakland. And he's like, we're going to come back and get this money. He just gets money from everybody, puts $2,000 in the ceiling and says, now we got to win 2 games so we can come back and get this money. And it worked. Like, these guys are worth millions of dollars, but nothing motivates you as much as taking $200 out of your wallet and putting it in the roof. And Ty Lue knew that. He knew that. That's why he was a good coach.
And I just think Ty Lue was somebody those players respected more.
David Blatt might have been a great coach in Europe, but, Cleveland, Ohio might be the Paris of the Cuyahoga River, but it is not France.
I love the CLE, and the CLE loved its Cavs role players.
We just had the dream team for personalities.
It's not that hard to become a legend in Cleveland. I'm not going to say that there's a high barrier to entry. Being on that team automatically made you one.
My very favorite player of all time, still to this day, Deli's my favorite. He's a scrapper, and we would not be where we are today without little Deli.
So I like Deli.
How do you not love Deli? Dellavedova. Just like out there, scrappy as heck, like just putting his body on the line for everything.
Deli is the most legendary sports athlete in the history of Cleveland, if you ask me, man. I just think he fits perfectly into like the fabric of Cleveland. You know what I mean? He worked hard. He always works hard.
So we're not going to go with Channing Frye or Richard Jefferson. Like, love those guys. My fans are going to be mad at me that I'm not talking about them. But they got the Road Tripping podcast. They're famous now. Like, they built an entire, like, cottage industry off of the back of that one season.
Those two going back and forth in and of itself, and LeBron, and the whole chemistry that team had was one of my favorites.
I worked with Channing when I was with the Phoenix Suns. So I did community relations and player development. So we were hands-on with a lot of the players. And Channing was obviously Phoenix, born and raised, and obviously getting to play for his home team. Kind of a lot of parallels to LeBron, right? Like, really proud to play for that hometown team. And he was a jokester. Channing was a lot of fun. He was always, it's funny, he's the type of guy who, after practice, you would stand in the hallway and you would wait for guys to sign stuff, or you would ask them to do an event, and he would see you and he'd be like, nope, and like turn and like and run away. But he always did it. He was so gracious, and he has kids of his own, so I think he was really good, like especially in situations with kids. And one of my favorite memories actually was we did NBA Fit, which is like NBA's umbrella for fitness and healthy and active lifestyles. Channing did kind of like an event out on one of the Native American reservations there. And it was really cool because we got to do a Q&A with him. He got to talk to kids and their parents about, eating healthy and exercise. And then we got to do a little skit with their mascot, the gorilla. And he was just spot on with it, to the point where he would call kids up to ask a question, and like this really tall 7-foot center is leaning down and he's like, what's your name? What's your favorite subject in school? And it was just, he was a joy. So watching him then come to a team that I love was even better, because obviously he went from the Suns to Orlando to Cleveland. To see him win a ring was so awesome for me, just because I had that personal connection with him, and I knew he was just a good person and a hard worker.
He was kind of like the glue that the team needed. He was just kind of fun-loving. I know I'm 7 foot, but I shoot threes. It was just, he didn't take himself too seriously.
And like Amon Shumpert, he was in like music videos.
I love Moskoff, man. I don't know why they did not play him more, man.
No one made more money to do less than Timofey Mozgov. He, like, when they signed him to that big contract, and then like the second the ink dried, the entire NBA landscape changed and they became the Warriors League, and he just was completely obsolete. And just like this big doofy guy that put into games, he would foul 3 times and have to go sit on the bench. And it's just, the biggest waste of money. God bless him. He got his paycheck, got a ring out of it. Nice guy and everything, but I mean, just sitting there, just a giant bag of money sitting at the end of the bench, like not contributing anything to this run.
But extra legendary stuff happens, like Timofey Mozgov going out to the grocery store and wearing a hat that says like it's no big deal. He's a 7'3" guy walking around downtown Cleveland, and he's like, I need to draw more attention to myself. I'm going to put on my hat. And there's a bunch of pictures you can find online of people taking selfies with him wearing a hat. And that alone is legendary. That's beyond legendary status.
Sasha Khan, yeah. He won a title. He goes, yep, I'm good. And then just retired. I think he was like 26. He like wasn't even old. He didn't even hit a prime. He was, yep, I'm good. I won an NBA title. This is the best it's going to get. I'm out.
Somebody tweeted at Austin Carr, Austin, do you remember Sasha Khan? And all he said was, yes.
There's more I Love the CLE to come. But first, a word from this episode's local nonprofit partner.
Love Doesn't Shove, Cleveland's most active nonprofit educating the community about dating violence prevention. According to a 75-year Harvard research study, the quality of your life is greatly determined by the quality of your relationships. That's why at Love Doesn't Shove, we're passionate about the mission to spark an interactive and informative dialogue with young people about the dynamics of healthy relationships. Thank you to all the schools and organizations who support our valuable program to stop violence before it happens. To get your business involved, visit lovedoesn'tshove.org.
I love the CLE, and the CLE loved the 2016 NBA Finals.
The thing about being a Cleveland fan, I think we're all a little self-deprecating, right? So like anytime that you're watching, whether it's the Cavs, the Indians, the Browns, there's always a moment where you're like, we're probably not going to do this, which is so sad because, I mean, like, but we still come and we still, you know, wear our sports team regalia and we still cheer them on. But yeah, of course, I was terrified. You know, like I was on the edge of my seat, like, are we actually going to do this? And then when we actually got to the finals, I still wasn't sure that it was happening.
In 2014, 2015, Kevin Love was hurt and Kyrie Irving was just getting off an injury, but he wasn't 100%. So when we lost that, I was like, if we were fully healthy. Then we go down 3-1 in 2016. And I wasn't, like, by the time we got to 3-1, I was like, oh, we're kind of screwed because they kept bringing up that stat. No teams ever came back 3-1. But then, honest to God, when I heard Klay Thompson, that interview, he was like, he just got his feelings hurt. And you saw LeBron kind of hit that LeBron mentality where he's like, what did Klay say? I'm like, yeah, he said some people's feelings just get hurt. And LeBron went, like, just did, like, kind of a silly laugh. I was like, okay, I think LeBron's going to go beast mode. And then a couple other Warriors players got hurt, but we're not going to talk about that.
I should have been done, like a lot of Cleveland fans might have been. I don't know. I can't remember exactly how the survey of the city felt, but I just know I for sure just had this glimmer of hope.
I like to watch great basketball, and those I mean, that Warriors team was like amazing to watch, and it just felt like, of course, Cleveland finally gets this team, and then this is what they're going to have to contend with now for the next decade. But there was nothing sweeter than watching Steph Curry just mentally unravel as that thing got through the playoffs. Like, you know, all the shimmying and all the shaking, and like, God bless him, guy's a hell of a shooter. But Matthew Dellavedova just draped all over him in the playoffs. Just like, remember, everybody's like, Delly's dirty, and we're like, Delly's not dirty, as he's like diving at people's ankles and stuff. You're like, there's no way he's dirty. And I'm in the crowd, literally in the playoff run, sitting in the family section. I sat at every game in the family section with my press pass, and I sat with Delly's mom, his dad, and his two sisters, and they're straight Aussie, right? And his dad's drinking tall beers, and they're like screaming at the top of their lungs, you know, like, you know, but Delly's not dirty, not at all. He's not playing rugby out there while the rest of the guys are playing this ballet of a sport.
I didn't think they were going to do it, to be honest. Like, I was like, you know, this is Cleveland, typical. You know, we're down. We're not one of those. They had just had too much firepower. You know, Golden State, I was just like, they're not going to come back.
Draymond Green was kicking people in the balls. And I think he got ejected.
Draymond's out. They can win that game. All they're going to have to do is just, in the game 6 they got, it's going to be at home. They're going to definitely win game 6. So all they got to do is win game 7. And probably a fool's errand most of the time, but like they won that game 5, and you start to feel a little bit better, and then they just smashed them in game 6. I think that's probably the most forgotten part of that series is just how bad they ran them off the court in game 6. And I honestly think the series was won in that game.
Blocked. I think it was game 6. He blocked game 5 or game 6. He blocked Steph. Because Steph tried to do like that fake layup, and LeBron just like looked at him and like talked to him like he was his dad. And he was like, "You can't do that in my house."
The unraveling kind of started earlier in that series, but the comeback, the culmination was the mouth guard toss, right? But there was the LeBron swatted shot, and then the look over the shoulder at him, and like Steph Curry's reaction. No one on a team with that many wins, that's that big of a favorite, that's that far ahead in the series, should be that bothered by that when you're swatted by a guy that size. And you could just see it just eating away at him inside. He just could not handle the fact that it was starting to get pulled away from him a little bit. But one of my favorite parts of that series is actually, and it wasn't him saying it, but he was laughing along with it. Guys were JaVale McGee tweeting the baby bottle, and then it's a man's game, I guess. Is what Klay Thompson said to him. And to me, Klay Thompson and Steph Curry are the exact same person. They're just like, you would never want to have a beer. There's like the list of the athletes you'd want to have a beer with, and there's like a list of athletes that like I wouldn't have a beer with that guy if it was the last beer anybody offered me and I was like so parched and my girlfriend just dumped me. I need to get hammered. Sorry, Steph, not having a beer with you. You're lame.
The most stressful 6-day stretch or 7-day stretch, I can't remember how many days it took to play those 3 games I've ever experienced, because every game felt like the end of my life. Like I remember the morning of game 7, I woke up like 5 or 6 in the morning. And went on my Instagram. I didn't even turn on the lights in my room. Like this was real. This was not for the gram. Like I didn't turn on my lights. I couldn't sleep, and I'm just talking to my phone. I'm like, what the? I ended up posting it to Instagram. Like, what am I doing? You know what I mean? Like I was lost, man. I didn't know what to do. It was the most stress I'm not gonna lie. It was the most stress I ever felt.
I don't know why, I just remember Sunday the 19th, Father's Day, like it's just grilled into your memory. And I know exactly how that day went. I knew what I was wearing. I had this like blue dress thing. And I had, like I said, I had this hope. I just really thought it was gonna happen. I really felt it was gonna happen, and I think the whole city did. You could tell by judging our reaction to it too, like everybody was.
I just knew we were winning. I just knew it. In fact, when we were down, I went online to book a hotel room. I thought, if we go to 7, and I think we're going to, I got a super cheap room at the Loft, so I stayed in the Flex that night just in case they went to 7. And I was so lucky because I had the room set up and I was down there.
I was with a ton of Golden State Warriors fans. So the thing is, a lot of previous Suns employees went to Golden State. So like Steve Kerr and obviously Rick Welts, who's their president. Like basically everyone had jumped ship at the Suns and gone to Golden State. So everyone who had worked for the Suns were big Golden State fans, except me, because I'm, repping the land really hard out there on the West Coast, trying to get everyone to be a Cavs fan.
I was at Harry Buffalo up top, like at the up top party room or like whatever. And when we were up there, I was getting the feeling, the game was so close and it was in Golden State, but everyone had this feeling of like, oh my God, I think the Cavs might win. But then there was always that thought of, we think that all the time with Cleveland sports, we're not gonna win.
So I watched pretty much the entire game in my basement. So at that point, my 14-year-old was 9, my 6-year-old was 2.
I took my son with me. We had the greatest outside table at Coastal Taco. We were like around the most fun people and had a perfect view of the game on the television, right? But everybody around us was fun and high-fiving and like crying. I mean, when they won, it was just unbelievable. Like strangers kissing and hugging and pouring beer and crazy.
The turning point is J.R. Smith's 2 3-pointers coming out of halftime. It was starting to get away from the Cavs. It was back and forth, going on a half. They had a little bit of a deficit. The Warriors were starting to pull away. They had a little bit of a stride, hit a couple shots, and you just can't let them get that rhythm. And J.R. Smith, who is just so naive to the moment, the guy who the same thing, is the thing that drives you the craziest about J.R. Smith is the thing that makes him so great, and it's that he just does not understand the gravitas of anything he's involved in at any point, and just ice cold, 2 daggers.
But honestly, when it was tie, the last 6 minutes of the game, then Kyrie hit that 3 with 2 minutes left. But before that, when LeBron had that block, that was when, because we didn't score. I don't think any team scored. So when LeBron had that block, that was the biggest. We all knew that was an incredibly big play that happened. So remember when I saw that, I was like, oh my God, I think we might win. And then Kyrie hit that clutch shot. I'm like, honestly, you could sense it. But again, used to Cleveland sports, you're something crazy is gonna happen. But I was like, I think we're gonna win this.
Then it was the block. Then it was the shot. And so everything happened with my arms on the back of the chair. And so my 2-year-old has no idea what's going on.
When, Kyrie hit that game-winning shot, and I lost my mind. I was, you know how they say people are sore losers? I was a sore winner. I was in your face, that just happened, the land is here. I remember screaming so loud, I actually terrified my dog. I scared all my friends.
Every single person watching that game who grew up through the drive and the fumble knew what was going to happen in that game.
It's inevitable. It's in your blood to just be you know what, I'm from Cleveland, we're down 3-1, it's over.
I'll never forget watching the remaining seconds of the game and you're still holding your breath. Oh my gosh, is this going to happen? Please, nothing else happen. Cavs win, come on. And 3, 2, 1.
And what was supposed to happen didn't, thank God. But we were watching, I've said 100 times, I wanted to turn the TV off and go to bed and dream something else happened. And when that thing that every Clevelander knew was going to happen didn't happen, we were blown away. I was blown away.
And then when we actually won, I still had a moment before I jumped and screamed and scared my dog and my friends that really didn't happen, did it? So I think there's always a little bit of that being a Cleveland sports fan. It comes with the territory of loving sports in this town.
My wife, she's from Pittsburgh. She's a Pittsburgh sports fan. They don't even have a basketball team, but she was excited because she knew holy shit, there's a curse that's it's just lifted. All of a sudden, we're not losers anymore. We can win something. And what's crazy is you don't understand the psyche, how that affects young kids. They're young kids and they realize, holy cow, I can be a winner. Because other than that, if you were a Clevelander, you're oh, I'm from Cleveland, I'm a loser, I'm gonna be a loser, and I don't know, it just changed the psyche of the city. And
so they win. I'm running around the house screaming. I run outside. She's crying because she's what the hell is going on in my living room? My wife is going crazy.
It was amazing. I couldn't sleep that night. And I drank a lot.
So I'll take it. Oh, great night. People were honking. I could hear. I live kind of in my street is, I live in the midpoint of my street. And it's maybe a quarter of a mile to the main roads. I could hear people honking and screaming from the main road.
Doing it. I still disagree with the block being the change. It was Kyrie's shot, man. I think he should have been the MVP of that game, man. It wasn't the block for me. Kyrie's shot over Steph Curry.
We literally spent 3 hours just circling the flats, and he'd go, woo! And dudes would go, woo! And then they'd high-five each other for 3 hours because there was nothing to drink. So people just walked around screaming.
A business owner of Harry Buffalo, I was buddies with his son. So we were upstairs, and I remember I was drinking a Bud Light the second we won. I looked at him. We all were freaking out. I looked at him, and he smiled, so I just grabbed a glass and I chucked it at the wall. And then I gave him a hug, and I was like, this is the coolest, this is only cool now. If this was any other day, I probably wouldn't be friends with my buddy anymore, and his dad would hate me. But it was such a good moment. I threw it at the wall, and then I gave him a hug. I was like, yeah, we won. And everyone, Then I ended up running outside Harry Buffalo, and I was just, at that point, I was just running down the street. I jumped on a truck. It was a lot of fun. I hugged strangers. I think I kissed a couple women on the back of the truck. That was pretty cool. Let's go back there. Yeah, this is the first time I kissed a girl on the back of the truck when the Cavs won.
I just looked at my friend. Everybody was screaming. Everyone was on the same wavelength. This was what's weird. Nobody had talked about this at all. We all just, our first inclination was to get out of the apartment, run downstairs, and start running down East 9th. And we like separated. Like my best friends, all of us, we were together in the beginning, but at that moment, you're just running down the street like madmen, crazy, screaming, and everybody's pooling into the same area, just rejoicing. And I just remember thinking it was pretty cool that the police, everybody was on board for this. They had blocked off the streets. They were just kind of like, yeah, we're about to do this. And I'm running down. One of the first things I remember seeing is two complete strangers flip over these traffic cones and fill them with beer and bong them together. Everyone's, embracing and hugging, and good thing this happened before the pandemic, because this was just like sloppy, lovey city right now. It was a great time. People were just, I have another memory of like some kid in his underwear like waving an American flag on top of a truck, and I was taking a ride on a fire truck. They were just letting us like ride on the fire trucks and stuff, and you just had so many friends in that night. Like I said, I separated from my actual friends because everybody at this moment was like your best friend. There were, there's nothing bad about it. You're just loving on each other and freaking out.
No, I did not tear up when LeBron James said, "Cleveland, this is for you," because I had already been crying for 3 minutes at that point.
First of all, no one expects a team to come back from being down 3-1, but especially in Cleveland, where, let's face it, everyone has been trained to lose. So, yeah, it threw a lot of things off kilter. I think most businesses had to shut down just because no one could understand what to do.
So, LeBron was a big old school wrestling fan. And one of the things that he trolled them with was he wore a Undertaker shirt to practice, because the Undertaker was always known for, he's the dead man. And he would always do this spot where he'd get hit and knocked down, and then he'd just sit straight up and stare at somebody in the ring. And that's basically what LeBron was doing to the Warriors.
That inspired a bunch of athletes to buy Undertaker t-shirts, I'm pretty sure. Like, any athlete's just like, yep, I'm going to talk shit at this rec game today. I'm wearing an Undertaker t-shirt.
Some of those subtleties of like building that momentum or building that tension even more.
On the Ultimate Warrior, it was the troll job. Like they made it seem like they didn't care, but LeBron has always subtly like kept notes.
Warriors portrayed themselves as this behemoth. This could never be derailed, and it looked like that way in the regular season. I mean, they set the record for wins, but mentally he saw a crack in the cement, and that's all he needed. Like, LeBron is one of the most, and sometimes it works against you, right? We're just like, like I said, he's the crazy hot girlfriend, right? He's the most mentally vindictive person ever to walk the face of the earth. But he saw that crack in the cement, and he just like started hammering the wedge in, like Undertaker t-shirt, Ultimate Warrior t-shirt, you know what I mean? Like, and then they had wore the black jerseys. They beat him, and they just kept wearing the black jerseys over and over again. That everybody hated at the beginning of the run. You remember, no one liked the black sleeve jersey at the beginning. By the end, everybody's like, everybody owns one of those black ugly sleeve jerseys now with that C on it.
It's funny because obviously Golden State has come back and beat the Cavs since, and I, to this day, will not let them live it down that, Golden State blew a 3-1 lead. And
I love the CLE. And the CLE loved Shirtless JR.
Yeah, J.R. Smith, probably the first athlete to ever have a t-shirt that's just his naked body showing all his tattoos, so everybody could dress up like their favorite player. And he made every appearance that summer with his shirt off. He's just a great guy. And it's funny because he said he loved the Cleveland fans because they just accepted him for who he was, because he made so many threes in Game 7. Nobody cared about anything off the court. Like, that changes everything about him.
What an icon. So amazing. One of the running jokes, too. I can just remember, like, when the parade went down and everything. I was hanging on a fence. You know, everybody was climbing up on stuff to be able to make sure they could see everything. And that was one of the highlights of them going by, was a shirtless J.R. Smith in all of his iconic tats and everything.
JR never had his shirt on, you know what I mean? That was like hilarious. And I'm like, you playing in, like, your job is to work out and you have no muscle tone. Like, you just got tattoos. That's it. You don't have, I'm 41 years old and I got more muscle than this dude does. Like, and I work a regular job every day, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, you don't, what do you do? Like, you had no abs.
Because honestly, it's kind of still like he's wearing a shirt. He's got so many tattoos. He got wasted. I don't think J.R. Smith likes it when people call him like Henny God. He drinks all the Hennessy. I think he hates it. I heard someone's like, yeah, Henny God. And he's like, shut up. Like, I don't want to talk to you. I don't talk about that. Just shirtless JR chugging Hennessy. That's a Cleveland goal right there.
I love shirtless JR, man. I remember when President Obama called Ty Lue and told him to tell JR to put a shirt on.
That's awesome. Could you imagine the president just, I feel like it was a wink though, like, hey, I see you, young man. And put a shirt on.
Don't listen to him, JR. Never put that shirt on. Ever, ever, ever.
Shirtless JR is epic, man. That whole, yeah. I think at the parade, he had on like his shorts from the game and no shirt. Just amazing. I'm from the east side of Cleveland, and I'm telling you, J.R. Smith could fit right in on the east side of Cleveland. You know what I mean? With no questions asked. You wouldn't even stop. If J.R. Smith was walking down the street in the middle of the summer on the east side of Cleveland, you would just keep driving.
Shirtless JR is a gift to our community. And quite honestly, as sad as I am that I didn't get to see it in person at the parade or even in person at the game, I got to see it last year during the 2019 Major League Baseball All-Star Game. There was a celebrity game, and fortunately, I was there for that experience. And he took off his shirt, and he was on, the Jumbotron, and it was the most beautiful thing ever. It was like reliving the moment all over again, and I finally felt like, you know what? I didn't get to see the Cavs parade, but I'm at least getting to see shirtless JR in person.
2019 All-Star Game in Cleveland, we're just like, there he is, doing his thing, what we love him best for.
Man, he got a lot of dudes laid. Because chicks looked at him and just got, it was like watching the Magic Mike of basketball, That's a great way to prime the pump before a day. Hey, you want to go see J.R. Smith with his shirt off? And then later on, I'll do it now. I'll do what you like.
And I love when he still pulls that joke, too. Like, sometimes he'll just, on Twitter or whatever it was, like, go shirtless, and we're like, there he is doing it again, remember?
He might not have reached his peak potential as an NBA player, but he's a champion, and you can't take that away from him. And you'll always have that memory of him holding the trophy, smoking a cigar, kind of like Michael Jordan, except for he's completely shirtless, and it's outside in June.
I love the CLE, and the CLE loved the championship parade.
The parade was crazy, man. I got to see MGK roll through there. JR didn't have a shirt on. The ladies were screaming at Kyrie. It was just mad, man. It was millions of people downtown, man.
Cleveland received national praise for how great the city was during the Cavs parade, and they should be. I mean, they only had 52 years to prepare.
So me, my wife, and my oldest daughter, we parked on like 18th and Superior, and we literally walked up Superior until we couldn't walk anymore, and we end up I don't know, about 20 rows back on East 9th Street.
I did it correct. Everybody that went and stood on East 9th probably had a terrible day. Nobody knew how to handle a parade. People were rushing the cars and shit. I liked that there were just no rules. It was just Summer of Love 69 kind of shit. Everywhere it reeked of weed smoke. People were open containering all over the place. And nobody got arrested. Apparently somebody shot somebody, some kid, totally unrelated. But I just liked that it was just a free for all of Cleveland love, and it was wonderful. I went and I stood by the beginning of the parade by Quicken Loans, so it all just happened real quick, and I was on to go keep getting drunk with my day. It was a nice experience.
Honestly, missing out on the Cavs parade was probably the saddest moment of my life. I mean, to this day, like nothing else can top the sadness, the unfathomable sadness that I felt when that happened. So obviously we won, and I was with a bunch of Golden State fans in a foreign land called Phoenix, Arizona. And it was very heartbreaking to know that the next day after the Cavs won, I was actually getting on a plane to go to Hawaii. And it was the first time I think that anyone in the history of the world has ever said, I'm sad I'm going to Hawaii and not Cleveland right now.
I was there with my son and his best friend, and J.R. Smith comes, and like, I wanted to be pushed against J.R. Smith too. I've never, like, just please never wear a shirt, J.R. Smith.
You know, people were climbing up the walls.
And I literally had to go in and like really get in a fight and move people away to save my kid. And then they were both crying. And that was the end of our experience. We left. It wasn't safe. But I did get to see Machine Gun Kelly swinging from like a traffic light or something.
He was on top of a bus rapping that song during a parade, but the parade was so congested it got to a point where I know 25 minutes doesn't seem like a long time, but it had to be between 25 minutes and a half hour. I heard that song probably 6 or 7 times because he was just stuck in front of us on the bus. It was crazy, man. It was insane. I've never seen that many people, you know, in that small of an area. I think people think maybe the area is bigger. It was shoulder to shoulder. It was fun, though. It was hot as ever. One of the hottest, like, you know, maybe it was the combination of the asphalt, the people, the sun, you know what I mean? But it was like steaming hot, but it was fun, man. It was fun. It was you got a good look at people because the parade would go and it would stop, go and it would stop, go and it would stop. So it was I'll never forget it, man. I'll never forget it.
The kids selling like $9 waters on the side of the road. Like, you couldn't get a water anywhere. You couldn't get into a bar. It's like 8,000 degrees outside, and there's just these kids just hustling $9 waters out of their coolers. And you're like, you hate them for it, but you're like, whatever, dude, just give me 3 of them, please. Like, that was, to me, I respect the hustle of those kids.
We were on the street, and so people were taking their shoes off. Like, if you had Kyrie's, and they were passing them up to the floats, and Kyrie was like signing your shoe, and then they were like passing it back.
I was scrolling, I was watching all my friends' stories, their pictures, and they're like, do you want to get off this and come to the beach? And I was like, no, I'm good. I just like wanted to get all the content I could and just pretend like I was there. So yeah, definitely would have preferred to have been here in the streets of Cleveland with all you crazy people celebrating instead of on the beach in Hawaii.
One of my favorite moments that happened, Charles Oakley is walking by with Shannon Sharp, NFL player, Charles Oakley, an NBA player that's from Cleveland, going through the thing. And my friend Steve was like, oh, we should go say something to him. And I saw Charles Oakley's face, and that was the first time I saw like a celebrity. And I'm like, you know what? I'm cool not bothering that guy because he looks intimidating as and I mean, Charles Oakley is an intimidating guy. He showed up on a Toronto Raptors practice after he was out of the league, threw a basketball at a guy's head and said, give me my money, and left because some guy owed him gambling bets. I would not mess with Charles Oakley. And I'm sure I'm the only person with the memory of Charles Oakley at the Cavs championship parade, but it sticks out.
It was so long, we got there close to the beginning as you could possibly get. And by the time I got home, I watched the speeches at home. Like, that's how long the parade, like, I was there for like maybe 4 or 5 hours, walked all the way back to the car, drove home, got home before they started speaking on stage. Like, that's, yeah, you're right. We probably stayed 4 or 5 hours. But we left. I'm like, it's too hot. I lost about 3 or 4 pounds.
Mom and my stepdad rented a suite at the Radisson downtown months before the season ended. They just said, if they win, I want to have a hotel room downtown. So it's like home base. So the entire family was down there. My stepdad went down, put his chair, was one of the first people down on the parade route, passed out cold, slept in the chair the entire time through the parade as it was happening. Just passed out in a chair in the middle of, you know, hundreds of thousands of like raging fans at the beginning. But the cool thing was my son was there with me. We have a framed picture of him. Mo Williams walked over with a cigar and took a picture, and it's my son right over his shoulder. And then Fox News did Fox 8 did this huge thing, and it said Cleveland on the front of their website, and it was like a kid like this in the front of the thing. It was my son. It was like right at the front. It was just, it was really cool for me as a dad to watch my sons. Like that was the moment. This was it. Like he's obsessed with basketball now. He's never gonna be able to get rid of it. And it was, that period of time where it happened.